All right, so we're finally here.
Let's do it. Always been fascinated by this one.
Yeah, Glukhovsky really throws you right into this bleak future. 2033, the surface is just gone. And humanity is clinging to survival in the Moscow metro system.
It's more than just a survival story, though, isn't it? This book really digs deep into, well, what makes us human? What happens to society when it's pushed to the absolute brink?
Right. And that setting, the metro itself, it's like its own character. So claustrophobic. That constant darkness, the flickering lights, the lurking dangers. Glukhovsky makes you feel the weight of it all.
Absolutely. And that sense of being trapped, both physically and psychologically, it just seeps into everything. I mean, imagine never seeing the sun again. Your whole world reduced to these dimly lit tunnels.
You got to do something to you, right? Like in that scene where Artyom, the main character, describes the darkness as a living thing. Gave me chills.
Yeah, he's a great character to experience this world through, because it's not just about staying alive down there, it's about finding a reason to. His journey is as much about self-discovery as it is about saving his home station.
He encounters some pretty wild stuff down there too, all these different factions, each with its own whole belief system.
It's like Glukhovsky took all the different ideologies of our world and crammed them into these metro stations. You've got your communists, your fascists, your religious fanatics, even some, what were they called? Those,
The Guardians, that mysterious group that seemed almost spiritually connected to the metro itself.
Yes. The Guardians.
Yeah.
Glukhovsky doesn't shy away from exploring the darker side of human nature, does he?
Not at all. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that really struck me was how even in this post-apocalyptic world, people still cling to power. They form these little mini societies with their own rules and hierarchies.
And that isolation, right? Each station becomes its own little world. It's a powerful commentary on how fear and uncertainty can divide us.
Definitely. You see it all the time in history, how societies fracture under pressure. And Metro 2033 just takes it to this whole other level. It's like, okay, what happens when the pressure cooker is literally a network of tunnels?
And the question Glukhovsky keeps forcing us to ask is, would we be any different? If we were thrown into that world, what choices would we make? How far would we go to survive?
I don't know. It's a tough one to think about. Makes you appreciate things we take for granted, like, fresh air and sunlight.
And the freedom to choose, right? Down the metro, every decision is a matter of life and death.
Yeah. That's one of the things I found so compelling about Artyom's journey. He's constantly faced with these moral dilemmas. Do you side with this group or that group? Who can you trust? It's really a story about navigating those gray areas.
And it's not just about physical survival. It's about holding on to your humanity in a world that seems determined to strip it away.
Remember that scene when Artyom finds that book of pre-war poetry? It's like this little spark of beauty in the midst of all this darkness and despair.
Exactly. It's those little glimmers of hope that keep the characters going, and us as readers, too.
Makes you wonder what we would hold on to in a similar situation, right? What would give us the strength to keep going?
For some, it might be family. For others, it might be faith or art, or even just the memory of a world that no longer exists. But the human spirit, it's a resilient thing. It finds a way to adapt, to find meaning, even in the darkest of places. And that's something Glukhovsky really captures in this book.
It's bleak, no doubt, but there's something deeply hopeful about it, too. This idea that even when everything seems lost, humanity finds a way to endure.
Exactly. And that's what makes it such a powerful and ultimately, I think, optimistic story. Makes you think what we take for granted, right? All the stuff up on the surface.
Oh, totally. Like just being able to walk outside and, I don't know, see the sky, feel the sun, not having to worry about mutated beasts or whatever lurking around every corner.
It's easy to forget how good we have it sometimes, until you read a book like this and you're like, whoa, that could be us down there.
Seriously. And Glukhovsky doesn't pull any punches. The metro is a harsh place, full of danger, and, well, some pretty messed up people.
Yeah, you really see how quickly society can unravel when the rules no longer apply. I mean, look at those bandits preying on travelers between stations. Total lawlessness.
It's almost like the metro amplifies all the worst parts of human nature. The greed, the violence, the lust for power.
And yet there's also these incredible acts of kindness and self-sacrifice, people risking their lives to help others. It's this weird mix of darkness and light. You know that scene where Artyom gives his last bullet to save that kid from the Nosalis?
Oh man, that was intense. I was like, dude, what are you doing? But it shows you what he's made of. There's still this core of decency in him, even after everything he's seen.
And that's what makes him such a great protagonist. He's not this invincible hero. He's just a regular guy trying to do the right thing in a world that's gone completely mad.
And that's what makes his journey so relatable, right? He's constantly questioning things, doubting himself. He's not always sure what the right path is, but he keeps searching for it.
Exactly. And the choices he makes have real consequences. It's not like some video game where you can just reload and try again. Glukhovsky really makes you feel the weight of every decision.
Yeah, like when he decides to trust Khan, that mysterious stalker who seems to know way more than he lets on. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, wondering if it was the right call.
Khan is such a fascinating character, isn't he? He's like this embodiment of the Metro itself. Wise, but kind of creepy, with a hint of something otherworldly.
Yeah, I'm still not sure what to make of him. Is he a good guy, a bad guy? Is he even human? Glukhovsky keeps you guessing the whole time.
And that ambiguity is what makes this book so compelling. There are no easy answers, no clear-cut good guys and bad guys. Everyone is just trying to survive, and sometimes that means making some pretty tough choices.
Choices that might force you to compromise your values, your beliefs. Like, how much are you willing to sacrifice to protect yourself and the people you care about?
Exactly. And that's the question Glukhovsky keeps coming back to. What does it mean to be human in a world like this? What lines are we willing to cross? And what do we hold on to when everything else is gone?
Heavy stuff. But it's also what makes Metro 2033 so much more than just a post-apocalyptic thriller. It's a story that really gets under your skin and makes you think about the big questions.
Totally. And it's a story that stays with you long after you finish reading it. Makes you look at the world a little differently.
You know, I was thinking about that scene where Artyom finds those old photographs of the surface world. Like just snapshots of everyday life. Picnics, birthday parties. It's almost like a lost civilization.
And it makes you realize how quickly things can change, how fragile our world really is.
Yeah. Makes you want to hold on to the good stuff while you can.
Absolutely. Appreciate the simple things, like being able to go outside and breathe fresh air.
Or hug a tree.
Or hug a tree. Exactly. Right. You know, it's a powerful reminder that we shouldn't take our world for granted.
Yeah, it makes you think twice about complaining about traffic or bad weather, huh?
Right. Like, seriously, all those little annoyances we deal with up here, they seem so trivial when you compare them to what these people are going through.
And yet, even down there in the metro, amidst all the darkness and danger, there's still this sense of hope, this belief that things can get better.
It's that resilience of the human spirit that really shines through in this book. I mean, these characters have lost everything, their homes, their families, the world as they knew it.
But they keep fighting. They keep clinging to life.
They find ways to create new communities, new families, to rebuild some semblance of normalcy in this utterly abnormal world.
And I think that's a powerful message for all of us, whether we're facing a global apocalypse or just struggling with our own personal challenges. You know, we have this innate ability to adapt, to overcome, to find meaning, even in the darkest of times.
It's like that quote from Viktor Frankl. Man's search for meaning is the primary motivation in his life, and not a secondary rationalization of instinctual drives. I think that really applies to Metro 2033 as well. Even in the most desperate of circumstances, these characters are still searching for something to believe in, something to give their lives purpose.
It makes you think about what truly matters, right? At the end of the day, it's not about material possessions or power or status.
It's about connection, it's about love, it's about finding your tribe and fighting for something bigger than yourself.
And I think that's one of the things that makes this book so relevant, even though it's set in this post-apocalyptic future. It speaks to something very fundamental about the human experience.
This need for belonging, for purpose, for hope. It's something we all share, regardless of our background or our circumstances. And Glukhovsky really taps into that in a way that's both thought-provoking and deeply moving.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Metro 2033, I think it's worth taking a moment to reflect on the questions this book raises.
About the choices we make, the sacrifices we're willing to make, the things we're willing to fight for.
It's a reminder that even in a world that seems to be falling apart, there's always hope. There's always something worth fighting for. And even in the darkest of tunnels, we can find our way back to the light.
I guess the question for all of us is, what will we choose to fight for? What kind of world do we want to build, both for ourselves and for future generations?
Metro 2033 doesn't give us the answers, but it certainly gives us a lot to think about. So thanks for joining us on this journey into the depths of the Moscow Metro.